Welcome again to the informal BLSA information session. Please continue to speak to me via the chat and excuse me for when I look over to see what's happening there. My name is Ruby. I'm the president of BLSA this year. I'm originally from Clarksville, Tennessee, so shout out to the person who is joining us from Vanderbilt. I went to Stanford University for undergrad. I graduated in 2010. I took 3 years off. In between, part of that was running a nonprofit, and the other part was working for a tech company in the Bay Area on the corporate legal team. And I am a second year here at the law school. And I will just go through your questions that you submitted. I kind of divided them up into different topics. But as I said before, please feel free to chime in on the nifty chat here if you have a question that's within that topic, or if I'm answering something and you want further clarification. So we'll start. Jobs is something that a lot of you wanted to know about, and so two of the questions that are very related are: what do you have to say about job prospects for median students, and what percentage of graduates are employed in legal related fields upon graduation, excluding clerkships and non-paid positions? And so my answer to that would be Google. And if you Google University of Chicago Law School job prospects, you will kind of have all the data that they keep. The 2013 data is the most recent thing that they have up right now. And something that I learned from Googling is that in 2013, 209 out of 215 students were employed. And of those 6 students who were not employed 9 months out of graduation, 3 were pursuing a graduate degree. 1 was not seeking employment, 1 was seeking employment, and 1, their employment status was unknown. And so that kind of just gives you an idea. There's even a breakdown if you go into the website to look into clerkships and the specific, it breaks it down to law firm, small law firm. You can kind of see where people are headed after graduation. And so I'm going to move, those were the main questions about jobs. If you have any questions about jobs or job prospects that I can speak to, feel free to put them in the chat. And so the next topic is location and housing. One question is, can you comment specifically on having the law school located on the south side of Chicago? And my answer is, personally, I think it's great. It's one of the reasons why I came to the University of Chicago. I was really interested in the Police Accountability Clinic. And so I spoke with Professor Fetterman who's in charge of the Police Accountability Clinic, before I came. And I was kind of telling him the things that I was interested in and what I wanted to do. I'm really passionate about juvenile justice issues. And he essentially told me to look outside the window. And he said that the people that I wish to serve are surrounding the University of Chicago. And so that really opened my eyes to seeing the strength of the clinical programs here. Oh, awesome. Okay. I'm going to finish this question and then I will answer your question. I think that being in this area really speaks to the strength of the clinical programs. When we go to client meetings, they don't have a far way to go. And I think we're doing a lot of great work in the clinics. And what I think this question might be getting at, and some other people raised, is safety concerns. And I think here, crime does happen. I'm not going to lie to you. But I think it's like living in any other city that I've been in. I lived in San Francisco prior to living here, and I honestly had more incidents living in San Francisco than I've had living in Hyde Park. I've had 0 here. In San Francisco, I had 3 incidents. And so I think it's just knowing your surroundings, realizing that you're living in a city, and acting accordingly. And so I will flip back to the question someone just asked about the support for public interest jobs. And I personally am not going into public interest immediately. I'm going to be working for a firm in New York, and then I plan on going into public interest and government. But there is definitely support for public interest jobs. Our Career Services Center will help you find any job that you are interested in, as well as there are student groups, of course, public interest student groups who will help you. The 3Ls help the 2Ls, the 2Ls help the 1Ls, help you find jobs. And then there's also the Career Services Center will help you get to conferences or not conferences, but job fairs, career fairs. Is a big one in the Midwest, and I know people go to one in DC. So there's definitely support if you're interested in public interest opportunities. And if I am not directly answering your question, please feel free to respond in the chat, and I can try to do so. Also, going back off to the issues, location and housing, someone asked, how do you feel about campus housing? Do students who live off campus have trouble finding affordable housing? And also, is safety a concern? I already addressed the safety issue. There is on-campus housing for graduate students, and it is extremely affordable. I do know some people who stay there. I think a lot of people live in Regents. Probably maybe half the class. I feel as though everyone lives in Regents. I decided not to live in Regents my first year, but I have housing that's maybe like 7 blocks away. It's affordable. It was relatively easy to find. I would say the 2 big rental companies that are here are TLC and MAC, and they own a lot of the buildings on campus. And so I think it's...
You also mentioned graduate housing.
What'd you do?
The graduate housing.
Oh, the graduate housing. Yes, graduate housing does exist. I do not honestly know much about it, but I do know it is really affordable. It's cheaper than what I'm paying, and so you should look into that if that's what you're interested in. And then they also have programs to where you can be an RA for dorms and then get free housing, but that requires you, of course, to be on call and stuff. Some people do that as well. Also, going off of the location housing arena, someone asked, what is the atmosphere like in Chicago, and what are fun things to do around the area? Chicago's great, particularly in the summer, spring, and fall. The winter is quite interesting. Last winter was my first winter here. It was the polar vortex. It was not the most pleasant experience that I've ever had, but I do think that the atmosphere in Chicago is generally a great one. Downtown is fun. They have the different neighborhoods that you can go to. As far as getting out of Hyde Park, every Thursday we have bar review, and so they pick a different bar in the different neighborhoods that are downtown. They don't really have them at all in Hyde Park, and so you get to see the different neighborhoods and go out with your classmates. We always end up at a place called the Hang Up. Feel free to Yelp it. It's a very interesting place. So there are a lot of fun things to do. There are a lot of touristy things to do, of course. Chicago is really known for its food. I haven't gotten to do much of that. One all year, honestly, you will be extremely busy. I spent a lot of time in the library, as nerdy as that sounds, so I didn't really get to explore as much as I wanted to. My one all year, I think most 1Ls typically live in Hyde Park, though some of them who had lived in Chicago before or who just felt comfortable commuting their first year lived downtown, and so they got to see more of the city. In the immediate area, I would say that Hyde Park is developing. 53rd Street in particular, I'm pretty sure you could even, if you Google, I think it's like 53rd Street development, they have a whole website about how they're building up the Harper Court area. There's a movie theater with student discounts. A lot of the restaurants will have student discounts. The shopping, they keep building new places. So I would say Hyde Park is definitely up and coming. We have a Walmart now, and that really excites me because we've had grocery stores, but they've been pretty expensive for the student budget when you're not really receiving an income. And we have a Walmart, and I'm really excited about that. Let's see. And so I will move from location and housing issues, unless anyone has a comment about that. So feel free to put that in the chat box. Let's see. And so the next topic is about the curriculum here at the University of Chicago and classes. The first question is, the University of Chicago has a very strong economics department. My research shows there is collaboration between economics and the law school. Are these areas that deal with law and economics elective or embraced by most students? Do you think that they strengthen the law curriculum? So I would certainly say that the areas are not elective. You're going to find econ pretty much in every 1L class here. It shocked me. I had heard about the strong econ focus before coming here, and I didn't think that it would be in every class, but it's in every class, from property to torts to Civ Pro. You're always trying to figure out who's the least cost avoider. So I would say definitely econ is in every class. Once you start getting into your 2L and 3L classes, you will begin to explore other areas, but you can still always make an econ argument. It's something that I've learned. It has been interesting. We had a visiting professor from Rutgers come, and so I learned crim from her, and the first few weeks, I think this was the first winter quarter, the first few weeks, everyone kept trying to give law and econ responses to why people were offending and things like that, and she had to say, no, I want to know what's fair. I think that kind of gives you an idea of how much law and econ is embedded. It was kind of difficult for us to flip our arguments and make the fairness argument, which has its merits, kind of going to the, do you think that they strengthen the law curriculum? I think that it does strengthen the law school curriculum, but I think that it sometimes, if I'm being completely honest, it can go too far. And one complaint that some students have here is that by focusing so much on econ, where things that have a disparate impact on certain individuals are dismissed as transaction costs, can be problematic in that some people don't feel comfortable speaking up about things that are on their face unfair, and you don't even want to get into a numbers analysis and delve into that type of argument. And so some people have felt uncomfortable in classes when they've wanted to make those arguments. But I would say the positive of that would be that the Dean of Students, Dean Schill, is aware of that. I actually spoke with him about that, I would say maybe 3 weeks ago, and this is something that they are looking into, because while law and econ is the bread and butter of the University of Chicago, it's what the University of Chicago is known for, it should not come at the expense of other ideas, because UChicago is very big on having different ideas and multiple people bringing their perspectives into the classroom. So he was very receptive to what we were saying. Other students have brought their concerns to him on this issue, and it is something that the school is working on, which I would say is the positive. And for those people who love econ, you're going to have an amazing time here. The next question is, I just wanted to inquire as to how much freedom you feel like you have to pursue specialized academic and extracurricular activities, for which courses and extracurricular opportunities already exist. Okay, and so, oh yay, I'm happy that the econ question the answer is thorough, thank you. So I would say that I think of course, your 1L year, there are going to be a lot of requirements. You only get to pick one class and one elective, and that is in your spring quarter. And they'll have maybe, I think it's like 6 to 8 classes, don't quote me on that, for you to choose from. And you can take a class with a professor that you've heard something about, something positive about, or an area that you're really interested in. So your first year, you don't really have that much freedom. It's kind of set, and they pick who your professors are and what classes that you'll take outside of that one elective. But then your 2L and 3L year, you can definitely take the classes that you are really interested in. Some people go the route of really specializing, saying, I know that I want to do M&A, and so they'll take every transactional class they can humanly possible. I do know some people who know that they want to do transactional, and so they want to get that experience in litigation as well, because what you will learn, if you do not know already, a lot of things that go through M&A are then later litigated. And so there's this thought that knowing what's happening on the litigation side can help you better craft the contracts and go through the negotiation process on the front end. So it doesn't end up in litigation, and if it does end up in litigation, then you're covered. And so people kind of take different paths on that. And as far as extracurricular activities, I think the sky is the limit there. One great thing that happens at the law school is student groups. And you can start a student group. You can go to BLSA, tell them what you want your student group to be. You have a faculty advisor, and all of a sudden you have a student group. I know last year they started Ahoy, which is an admiralty group. I have not been to any of their meetings, but I have seen them float paper boats along the reflecting pool outside of the law school. And they dress up as pirates for the student activities fair. So if you come to Mid-Students Weekend, you'll get to see Ahoy. It's definitely a great bunch. So I would say, yes, there's lots of freedom. Definitely for extracurricular activities all throughout. And as far as academic freedom, that is going to come your second and third year.
We should talk about intramural sports.
Oh, intramural sports. I would like to say that on Wednesday, I became an intramural kickball champion. We defeated the undergrads. I'm pretty sure we were the only graduate school who was in the competition. But we dominated the undergrads to the point where I heard one of them say, "Where did these people come from?" It was great. We held one team to 1 point up until the final inning, when we started to get really lax. It helped them feel better about themselves. It was a great experience. I'm also on the intramural flag football team. We were doing a really great job with that. We were undefeated, but then it got cold and things got questionable. So I'm not a champion in there yet, but I am determined to win next year. And I also play dodgeball, which is amazing because you get like 30 minutes of just going back and forth, seeing how many games you can squeeze in. Clearly, I love intramural sports, and the law school loves them as well. We actually win. They award the, yay, I see the flag football love in the chat. And so we win. They award the Phoenix Cup, and you, sorry, I'm reacting to the chats. I love that you guys are excited about intramural sports. The law school actually wins the Phoenix Cup. I think we've won it the past 4 years, 3 or 4 years, where they have intramural sports every quarter, and we have the most winning teams. Or most winning, one of the two. Anyway, we win the Phoenix Cup, and it's great. They have everything from inner tube water polo, basketball. They even have things like chess and spades. They even have, like chess and spades and all those types of games. So whatever your sport is or your thing, they have golf and bowling. Clearly, I get really excited about intramural sports. It's a way to take a breather, to bond with your classmates, and to win, because the law school is all about winning. We take things very seriously. Our men's flag football team even had wristbands with plays on it. Like, that's how intense it is. And so you should come to the University of Chicago if you want to win at intramural sports. I'm just saying. I will be here next year recruiting for the flag football team. You should come to tryouts. The next question is, are there opportunities to study abroad? And if so, how does that impact a student's course of study? So you can find this on the website, but the answer is no. There are some programs you can apply to go to other law schools. Information about that process is on the website, but there is not a study abroad program. But we do have an international immersion program. You're speaking about the spring break? Where for spring break, you can go to different countries and do an activity. So this year, I believe it's Switzerland, Cuba, and Japan are the 3 places. And you apply for that program in the beginning of fall quarter. And then those groups raise money throughout the year to fund the trip, help fund the trip. And speaking of one of the fundraisers, the Cuba group had a talent show on last week, November 20th was the day, the talent show. And so I got to see the talents of a lot of my classmates, which was great. There was someone who played the guitar blindfolded with it behind his head. We had some people who did stand-up comedy for the first time. All that to say that the law school is a talented bunch, and so you should come here if you're talented as well. And of course singing, and people were dancing. And are you able to choose classes outside of the traditional law courses? The answer to that is yes. This is also, if you check the website, you can read about it. You're able to take a certain amount of classes across the Midway.
Explain what across the Midway.
Oh, across the Midway. That's a great question. Across the Midway, so the law school is separated from the rest of the university, like the undergrad side of it, with the Midway. And so when I say across the Midway, I mean you can take classes in the other schools. You are limited to a certain amount of those classes that you can take, but you can take those. And then some of the classes that are even within the law school aren't necessarily traditional law school courses. We have a lot of seminars. Seminars are your friend. I think they're amazing. You are in a class of about 20 to 25 students. You're in an intimate setting with a professor, and you're really delving deep into a topic, and everyone's going back and forth. You're actually really able to bring your ideas. Of course, it's not going to be the Socratic teaching style there. And they even have Greenberg seminars where some of the professors host them in their homes. Some of the topics have been The Wire. Some have been on wine and the law, and they kind of just vary, whatever the professor is really interested in at that time. Some of them have been documentary based, so you watch a film and talk about the legal aspects of it. So I would say even within the law school, there are classes that you wouldn't think of as traditional law school courses. The next question is, how do the small classes in grading affect employment opportunities? And I would say, okay, I will get to that question after this one. I would say that this is not statistically proven, but if you just look at the sheer number of students, so for our class sizes, somewhere around 200 students, and we tend to have more employers come to OCI than we have students. So the odds look fairly favorable, and it's great because when I was looking at law schools, and I was speaking with one of the students at University of Chicago, they kind of explained it to me. The beauty of going to a school that has a small class size is that firms really like to say that they have so many different schools that are represented in their recruitment year. And because at the University of Chicago, it being a national school, we all kind of want to go to different places. So some people want to go to California, New York, DC, etc. And so realistically, I like to say there's not enough of us to go around, but realistically there simply isn't. So I personally like the effect that looking at the supply and the demand that comes along with having a small class size.
What's OCI?
Oh, I should apparently explain what OCI is. So OCI is on-campus interviewing. And so what happens is employers from around the country will come on campus, and they will, it's 2 weeks long, and you go into, it's held at our business school, Booth Business School, and you sign up for interviews with firms that you're interested in. You kind of rank them, and the beauty of our OCI is that there's not a pre-selection, so firms can't look at your grades and kind of say, oh, I want to interview so-and-so. You get to select the firms that you're interested in, and it's selected on a lottery system depending on how you rank those firms. And then even if you don't get a firm that you really wanted to interview with, the day of, you can go and speak with them, and they'll try to squeeze you in that day. And you can also even like email them before, like the moment you find out that you don't have that firm, and they'll try to work you into the schedule. People also drop, so you really get to interview. The beauty is that you really get to interview with the firms that you're interested in. And then after the OC, just to continue explaining that, after the OCI process, you will then have callbacks where firms will fly you out to their respective firms, and you'll interview with more people. And those interviews are, of course, longer. Your OCI interviews are about 20 minutes. And the beauty of our OCI interviews are that they are at the business school. I was speaking with some of my friends and peers who go to New York schools, and they have to do them in hotels, which is a whole nother dynamic because other regular customers are there. So it was great to kind of have that privacy at the business school, and for it to be really close by. And so someone asked, are you or anyone you know of in the Dr. Off Business Leadership Program? If so, can you elaborate on what the program is and maybe the courses it offers? And so I am not in the Dr. Off Business Leadership Program, but one of our BLSA members is. So if you send me an email, I will type my email here. Shoot me an email and I can connect you with him. He's amazing. This is me trying to type and speak at the same time. Okay, so that is my email address. If you send me an email, I will connect you with him and he can tell you about his experience. He worked at United this past summer and has had nothing but positive things to say to me about his experience, but he can definitely elaborate to the level that I believe that you are asking for. Perfect. And so we have one question on preparation. And someone asked, what can I do now to prepare for law school success? And my answer would be relax. Take a breather, because law school is going to be, especially your 1L year, it's going to be fairly intense. And I would also say Mavis Beacon. For those of you who do not know how to type quickly, I would say download Mavis Beacon, because when you're in those law school exams and you have 3 to 4 hours to type your heart out, you want to be able to keep up with your classmates. I personally had to download Mavis Beacon. Was it this past weekend? Or no, over Thanksgiving break, I downloaded Mavis Beacon. Just because I need to get up my typing speed. I'm thinking, like, there's so many things that I want to get down on the paper and I'm unable to, just because I can't type fast enough. And when you're looking at the law school exams, which are these fact patterns that are extremely long, there's so many issues. You're spotting issues and you want to get them all down. If you're one of those people who did not get kicked out of your typing class, great, and you can type, that is awesome. I should also clarify why I was clicked out of typing class. I was not a wild child. It's because I lived in the South and they had tracking. So they removed me from the class because I was on the university path and they felt that people on the technical path should have the spot for the class. I have problems with that, but I will not go into those at this moment. So yes, my 2 tips: relax and maybe speaking. A lot of people read getting to maybe. I think you can just skim that, but if that helps you feel prepared, you can read getting to maybe. And there is another, if you're coming to Chicago specifically, I do think it would be helpful to read, I'm pretty sure it's called The Legal Analyst, and that'll kind of give you the vocabulary coming in that everyone is already using here. I got the book in my about 3 or 4 weeks in and kind of had a huge aha moment with what my professors were talking about. It would have been great to have that understanding prior to coming to law school. So if you're coming here, definitely that's a good book to check out. And the next few questions are really focused on, I guess, my experience here. And someone asked, what is one aspect of the school or your experience that has been dissatisfactory? And so I would say, honestly, it would be the, I kind of touched on this before, and I think what I'm going to say is all connected, but sometimes the econ focus can be so extreme that there will be issues that are tied to race, race, class, gender, and issues like that that will not, I feel as if they're not addressed appropriately in class because people are so focused on the econ aspect and looking at cost-benefit analysis and all these other types of arguments that kind of go into econ, which I think is great, but sometimes I think that they come at the expense of arguments that are based on the disparate impact that a law is having on race, due to race, gender, and class. And that can be frustrating as a student of color. And kind of tied to that, I think it's because of we don't really have diversity that I would like to see when it comes to our faculty members, and as far as gender and race are concerned. And that, I believe, kind of goes into what they're teaching and what they're pointing out to us in the cases. And one thing that they are working on is bringing in more faculty, more diverse faculty. And I've personally witnessed the recruitment efforts by the school to do that. So I think that a diverse faculty is something that is on their radar and something that they are really looking into. And I think that's amazing. Okay. So someone asked, so do you think the econ framework can't address race as well? I think that the econ framework, if applied appropriately, can address race, but I think in the way in which it is applied here, it is not necessarily get to race, because it is kind of dismissed as a transaction cost. One thing that you'll learn in torts is, sadly, is that the ideal number of say for example product liability, the ideal number of people who will get injured or unfortunately die is not 0. And the reason that that is because of, you don't want people to take more I feel like I'm becoming a professor. You don't want people to spend too much money taking precautions that doesn't justify like the actual benefit, if this makes sense. And so when you're looking at econ in that way, it isn't necessarily taking into access. The market is not taking in the fact that people do not have equal access to the market. So I think in the greater econ discussion, you can address race and have those conversations. Those conversations are not happening in some of the classrooms that are here. And that was through personal experience, my 1L year, and other people have had that experience here at the law school. But one thing that is great is there are some professors who do fit race in that discussion. Professor Strahilovitz, which is a 1L professor, does a really great job of bringing up race in property and understanding how property law and race are very closely connected. That was an amazing class. That was my favorite class for that reason, is because he brought in other ideas into that class. This year I have Professor Huck, who is amazing. He teaches criminal procedure. I had my last class with him yesterday, and we were talking about grand jury. And it was on the syllabus. It wasn't even something that was scripted, and he brought in what happened in the Brown, in the Garner, and in the Garner cases, and even went as far back as Oscar Grant. And so one of the assignments in the class was even to watch the video of Oscar Grant. If you have not seen that video, it's something that you should watch. And so I think that there are professors who are having that discussion, but I don't think that there are enough professors having that discussion. And I know that the law school is aware of it, and that's something that they are working on. And let me know if I did not answer your question number 5485. I will move on. Someone said that they have heard varying things about the... Okay, so I feel like I just covered that one. Someone asked about the intersection of race and law at UChicago. Yeah, I feel like in my experience with professors, I think I've covered that one in the last question. Oh, someone just asked about Chicago's reputation as a conservative law school. I feel like it's kind of tied to the econ argument, but I think that is a reputation. I think that the Federalist Society, which is here, is very strong, which tends to have very conservative or libertarian views. One thing that I didn't necessarily know coming in is, I would say, how strong that those views are, and I think it was my first experience in a classroom where people who had those views were so, I would say, strong in them. As I said, I went to Stanford for undergrad, so it was a very liberal institution, and I think it attracts a lot of like-minded individuals. And so I think it was great to kind of be in a class. In the beginning, when we did not know how to make legal arguments, I think I wanted to claw my eyes out. But the moment that we really started to understand how to respond to the Socratic method, how to phrase our arguments in a coherent way, I enjoyed having conservative classmates in the room, because it really helped me understand that viewpoint, understand where they're coming from, without all of the extra add-ins. I'm not sure if that's what your question is getting to, but if not, please feel free to let me know. And so someone asked, what is my average week like? And so I wouldn't say I really have an average week. It kind of depends on how I want to schedule my activities for that day. I would say 1L year was fairly average, because you are all going to the same classes at the same time. It is very much like high school. And so I would have about three classes a day. I would study in the library afterwards. I wasn't a morning person. Some people come here right when they open every morning and get their studying done. I would study right after and then have my evenings to myself. Some weeks I would try to shift things and do all of my work on the weekend, and kind of then have my week to myself. So I feel like you can kind of sculpt your average week and decide what that looks like. Let's see. Also, I want to address the softball question that someone gave me that made me really excited. Someone said, I was looking at the Chicago BLSA website, and I'm encouraged to see that the chapter has shown solidarity with the hands up don't shoot movement. I'm wondering what the Chicago campus climate is like post-Ferguson decision. I imagine the law school to have a liberal bent, but I could be completely off. could you speak to the political atmosphere as well? Also, with today's Eric Gardner's decision, is your BLSA chapter planning more activities? Yes. So we've been fairly active with what has gone on. I think post-Ferguson, the climate on campus was interesting. I think there's a difference between the climate that has been on campus post-Ferguson and the Mike Brown situation to post-Garner. I think we got more support from the greater student body with the recent grand jury decision. I have different reasons for why I think that is, but also there was a video, which I think kind of speaks to the benefit of having a body camera. But there's pushback there that there was video and there wasn't an indictment. And so, but I think just looking at it purely on a campus context, yesterday we had, right after the decision, we got together with all the other affinity groups on campus, so the Salsa, Lhasa, Outlaw, and Apalsa, and kind of just try to figure out what our response should be, because a lot of students were upset once the decision came down, and so we decided collectively to wear all black yesterday. We changed our Facebook statuses to the same thing, and I will admit that on Wednesday I was concerned as I was getting the word out to everyone, because I wasn't necessarily sure how people were going to react and if we were going to have a lot of support. On Thursday in criminal procedure, there was a moment where I looked around, and I would say for one of the few times in class, I felt as if I was in the majority. This is coming from, as a black person, I'm one of 15 black people in a class of what is about 200. And so in classes, I'm clearly nowhere near the majority because we're not all in the same class. And it was great to see so many of my classmates who decided to show solidarity and wear black and support BLSA and all the other affinity groups who are tired of what is going on with police and holding police accountable for their actions. And so I would say that that was beautiful. We took a picture. We weren't able to, of course, find a time where everyone could get in the photo, but we did get a sizable amount and take a picture of everyone in their black, but it by no means depicts how many people came out in black and show their support for the movement. The undergrads have also been very active. They held a die-in yesterday in front of the undergrad library. I was unable to attend due to a class conflict of Crim Pro. And the interesting thing is that I was actually planning to walk out of Crim Pro to go make it to the die-in a few minutes before class ended, but I couldn't and didn't want to, because Professor Huck decided to really delve into the issues of race and discuss these decisions that came down, which was amazing. Certainly one of my best law school memories thus far. And what programs are we working on? So we're working with the police as I stated, I'm in the police accountability clinic. And so we're working with the police accountability clinic. They have a few cases right now. We have a few cases right now going on about holding the police accountable. So I'm working with Professor Fetterman on tangible things that BLSA can do to help the movement. This week, well, rather tomorrow, I'll be representing BLSA. Tomorrow and Sunday, I'll be attending 2 on-campus think tank type of think-in environments that we're going to be having to discuss things that we can do as a university. One of them is going to be sponsored by the Center on Race, and the other one is connecting with the undergrads who have been extremely active and they want to kind of bridge the gap. And then we're also having another discussion of the leaders of the respective affinity groups on Wednesday to discuss at the graduate level we can do. So it's really coming from all ends, some coming from administration wanting to meet with us to figure out a solution that we can do, students connecting with undergrad as well as the grad program. I guess you're rescinding that question. Does that mean all 15?
He's asking about the photo and the invite.
Oh, the photo and the invite. No, so that's not all of our BLSA members. That was taken because we won chapter of the year, and so we wanted a nifty photo. But we have so there's about 8 to 15 in each class, so that would put us at about 38 BLSA members that we have. But the beauty of the photo that I was discussing before is that it also includes students from all backgrounds, because we really wanted to have our allies in the photo as well, and showing solidarity, because every movement that has gone anywhere, it has gone somewhere once the greater population has signed on and supports the movement. And so we felt as if that was a prime opportunity to show all of the faces of the law school and not just the black faces. But for the hands up photo, we did make a conscious decision to just have the affinity groups and the students of color in that photo, and that photo is on our website. So that gets, should I cut it? Should I cut it or continue to answer the questions?
If you want.
So briefly, it's 12:49 now, and I know that we said it would be 45 minutes, so I will just quickly go through the other questions. And if you have any last minute questions, please feel free to ask them now, because I want to be respectful of your time. I feel like as if I've described the student community at UChicago, I would say one addition to that, I think people think that UChicago is very competitive. I thought that coming in. I would say that it is competitive, but I think that you might find that at any law school, just because in law school there's this beautiful thing called a curve, and so everyone cannot get an A, and so I would say it's competitive in that regard. I think 1L, I felt the competitive vibe more, and I'm not sure if it was actually that way or as if it's something that's inherent in the Socratic process and everyone kind of all eyes on you in the classroom when you're learning and going through that. Second year, I think things have calmed down a lot. I don't feel as if I'm in competition with my classmates in the slightest. The professors are definitely easily accessible. Most of them keep their door open, and if their door isn't open, they typically tell you to feel free to knock. Some professors tend to work with their door closed, and they let you know. Someone asked, was I able to work in my 1L year? I did not work, but I do know people who have worked. One of my classmates, actually, she was working 20-hour work weeks. I personally, if you are able to find a way to not work your first year, that's what I would recommend, just because it is a lot and you want to make sure that you are fresh and ready for class each day and able to take in the information that you're given. But in the event that you do have to work, it is possible. I've seen people do it. I personally did not do it. This year I'm not working, but I will be working as a teaching assistant for the juvenile justice seminar here. Someone asked about LRAP. For that, I would say check out the website. All the information that you could ever want to know is on the website about LRAP. And if you have further questions, you can speak with the financial aid office here. Also, someone asked about the average graduate debt. Pretty sure that might also be on the website. You can Google it or talk to financial aid. And someone asked about the supportive services, student groups that are available for international students. And so we have an Office of International Affairs. You can reach out to them, email them, check out their website. And then also our career services, they will work with any law student, whether you want to stay and work in the U.S. or return to the country that you originally came from. They will work with you on finding employment. So there are a lot of support networks that are on campus for international students. And then we have a really strong LLM population, and they have activities that are sometimes open for others to join and interact and have an awesome time. And if there are, I went through, yes, so I've gotten through all of the questions that everyone has asked. I would like to thank everyone for coming out. If you have any additional questions, please feel free to email me. I posted my email address in the chat box, and you should also have an email from me from a few weeks back. Thank you again.